Hello student. Today topic of lecture, the veins of systemic circulation, part 2. Next question. The vena cava inferior. Second question. The common iliac vein. The internal iliac vein. The external iliac vein. And next question. The veins of the lower extremity. So, the system of vena cava inferior. Vena cava inferior. The inferior vena cava inferior, the thickness venous trunk in the body lies in the abdominal cavity, close to the right side of the aorta. It's formed at the level of the first lumbar vertebra by the merger of two common iliac veins below the division of the aorta and immediately to the right of it. The vena cava inferior passes upward and somewhat to the right, so that the higher it rises, the further is from the aorta. The lumbar of the vein adjoins the medial edge of right psoas muscle, and then passes onto the anterior surface. Its upper segment rests on the lumbar part of the diaphragm. This is what you see, vena cava inferior. Abdominal cavity, diaphragm. Vena cava inferior lying in the sulcus vena cava of the posterior surface of the liver. Then passes through the foramen vena of the diaphragm into thoracic cavity, and this is vena cava of the diaphragm into thoracic cavity, and immediately drains into the right atrium of the heart. This is vena cava inferior. The veins draining directly into the vena cava inferior corresponds to the pi branches of the aorta, except vena hepatissa. They are divided into the parietal veins, visceral veins, parietal veins, the right and left lumbar veins, vena lumbalis dextra and vena lumbalis sinistra. Four veins on each side corresponding to arteries of the same name receive anastomosis from the vertebral plexus. They joined by a longitudinal trunk, vena lumbalis ascendens. This is vena lumbalis ascendens. Lumbalis ascendens. Next vein, vena phrenica inferioris. Vena phrenica inferioris. Vena phrenica inferioris. Drain into the inferior vena cava, where it passes in sulcus of the liver. This is vena phrenica inferior. Right-left lumbar vein, vena lumbalis 4, vena lumbalis sinistra and vena lumbalis dextra. Next group, the visceral veins. First veins, vena testicularis. Vena testicularis. It in males, vena testicularis, vena ovarius in female. These veins originate in region of the testes, and form plexus with arteries of same name, plexus pampiniformis. The right vena testicularis, empties directly into the vena cava inferior at the acute angle. The left empties into the left renal vein, vena renalis, in vena renalis. Vena renalis. According by Hertel, this right angle hampers the flow of the blood and causes the more frequent occurrence of varicocele in the left spermatic cord as compared to the right. In female, vena ovarica begins in the hilum of the ovary. What you see, vena testicularis right, dextra, vena testicularis sinistra, different. This is drain into vena cava inferior, vena testicularis sinistra, drain into vena renalis. It is visceral vein. This is, you see, vein spermatica, right? This is vena cava inferior, and you see vena renal. This is vena spermaticus sinistra. Vein and vein. The vein, the renal vein, vena renalis, sinistra and dextra. The renal veins pass in front of the renal artery. What you see, renal artery. Practically covering the latter completely. The left renal vein is longer than the right and runs ahead of aorta. Vena renalis sinistra, vena renalis dextra. Drain into vena cava inferior. The right suprarenal vein, vena suprarenalis dextra. Vena suprarenalis dextra. Vena suprarenalis dextra. Drains into the inferior vena cava immediately to this right. Vena suprarenalis dextra drain into the vena cava inferior immediately above the renal vein. Vena suprarenalis sinistra usually fails to reach the vena cava and drains into the renal vein in front of the aorta. Vena renalis, vena suprarenalis sinistra, vena renalis dextra, vena suprarenalis dextra drain into vena cava inferior. You see this is vena cava inferior, vena cava inferior, vena renalis, vena suprarenalis sinistra, vena renalis dextra. This is, you see, vena spermatica dextra, vena spermatica sinistra. Next veins, the hepatic veins, vena hepatica, empty into the vena cava inferior as it passes out the posterior surface of the liver, vena hepatica. The hepatic vein carry blood from the liver, which receive it through the portal vein and hepatic artery. Portal vein and hepatic artery. What do you see? Vena hepatica dextra, vena hepatica sinistra, vena hepatica intermedius drain into vena cava inferior. Next vein, the common iliac vein. The right and left common iliac vein, vena iliaca communis, join at the level of the lower edge of the first limba vertebra to form the vena cava inferior. The right common iliac vein is located behind iliac artery, right. The left vein lies below and behind the artery of the same name. The left vein then turns medially and passes behind the right common iliac artery to merge with the right common iliac vein to the right of the aorta. Each common iliac vein at the levels of the sacroiliac joint comprise in its turn two veins, external and internal iliac veins. What you see, this is vena cava iliac and communis. This is cut. What you see, vena cava, vena iliaca externa, vena iliaca interna, vena iliaca externa, vena iliaca interna. The internal iliac vein is short, but thick trunk located behind the internal iliac artery. The veins that make up the internal vein corresponds to arterial branches of the same name. Normally, these veins are binary outside the pelvis, but merge into a single trunk on entering it. A number of venous plexus, these anastomosis with one another. They formed among the branches of the internal iliac vein. This is, you see, internal iliac vein. This is branches of iliac vein, internal. Plexus into different organs of the pelvis. What you see scheme, the lateral sacral vein. Lateral sacral vein. This is, you see, vena iliaca interna. This is vena gluteus superior. This is, you see, vena lateral sacral veins, vena sacrum lateralis, what you see. And you see plexus venous sacralis, consists of what, sacral vein. This is sacral vein, lateral and medial, and you see plexus venosus sacralis. What is this? Is you see vein, the anterior sacral, lateral and medial. Next, the rectal venous plexus. What do you see? Plexus venosus rectalis is the plexus in wall of the rectum. What you see? Rectum, venosus plexus. Three plexus can be distinguished: submucous, subfascial, and subcutaneous. The submucous or internal venous plexus, plexus rectalis internus. In a lower end of the column rectalis consists of several venous nodules arranged in the shape of the ring. The adjacent veins of this plexus perforate the muscular cord of the intestine and merge with the veins of the subfascial or external plexus, plexus rectalis externus. What you see? Plexus venosus rectalis, plexus venosus rectalis, and drain into vena vesicalis. What you see? Vena. This vena rectalis superior. Vena rectalis inferior and vena rectalis media. This is blood of the rectal venous plexus drain into three veins. Vena rectalis superior and vena rectalis mediate arise from the latter, accompanying arteries of the same name. Vena rectalis superior drains through the inferior mesenteric vein into the portal vein system, while vena rectalis media empty into the system of the vena cava internal. Vena iliaca interna. The vena iliaca interna. A third plexus form in the region of the external sphincter of the anus, plexus subcutaneous, which make up vena rectalis inferior, draining into vena pudenda interna. What you see? Vena pudenda interna. Vena pudenda interna. What you see? Vena rectalis superior, drain into vena mesenterica inferior, and vena rectalis media vena rectalis media drain into vena internal iliaca, vena iliaca interna, and vena rectalis inferioris drain into vena pudenda interna. Then vena pudenda interna drain into vena iliaca interna. Vena iliaca interna. Vena iliaca interna. Next, the vesical venous plexus, plexus venosus vesicalis. Vesicalis is located in the region of the fundus of the urinary bladder. The blood from the plexus is drained into the internal iliac vein through the vena vesicalis. Through the vena vesicalis. Vena vesicalis. Next, the prostatic veins. Venous plexus venosus prostaticus is situated between the urinary bladder and pubic adhesion, encompassing the prostate and seminal vesicle is male. The unpart vena dorsalis penis, vena dorsalis penis, drain into plexus venosus prostaticus. Vena dorsalis clitoridis in females corresponds to vena dorsalis penis in male. Next, uterine venous plexus, plexus venous uterinus, and the vaginal venous plexus, plexus venosus vaginalis, plexus venosus uterinus. In female are located in the white ligament along the side of the uterus and further downward along the lateral walls of the vagina. The blood from them drain mainly through vena uterina. Vena uterina into the internal iliac vein. L-third part is also drained through the ovarian vein, plexus ovarian vein or plexus pampiniformis in male. Next vein, the external iliac vein. The external iliac vein, vena iliaca externa, is the direct continuation of the vena femorale, which after passing under the inguinal ligament is designed as the external iliac vein, passing medially and posteriorly of the artery. The external iliac vein joins with internal iliac vein in region of the sacroiliac joint to form the common iliac vein. The external iliac vein drains two veins, inferior epigastric vein, vena epigastrica inferior, and deep circumflex iliac vein, vena circumflexa ilium profunda, accompanied by arteries of the same name. Which sometimes flow from a common trunk. This is in area. What you see pictures. The external iliac vein drain two vein. Vena epigastrica inferior and vena circumflexa ilium profunda, accompanied by arteries of same name, which sometimes flow into it from a common trunk. Vena epigastrica inferior, vena circumflexa ilium profunda. You see this plexus venosus of the organ of the pelvis. This you the plexus plexus uterina, uterus. This is vaginal venosus plexus. This is vesical venosus plexus. This is rectal venous plexus. No, it doesn't. The veins of the lower extremity, the venous blood of the lower extremity drains via the vena iliaca communis into the inferior vena cava. The blood from the whole leg is collected via the vena femoralis. The veins of the lower extremity are divided into deep and superficial or subcutaneous veins, which pass independently of the arteries. The deep and superficial veins are connected by perforans vein. What you see, perforans vein. This vein have valves which only allow blood to flow from the superficial to deep vein. This is superficial vein, this is deep vein. Ultimately, therefore, the majority of the blood from the leg, 85%, travels through the deep system. This you see fascia, this you see valve venosus, connective vein, which connect superficial vein between themselves, and you see deep vein. This classification principle of the venous outflow in the leg. Among the numerous perforating veins, three groups are clinically significant. Dot vein, on the, is situated on the medial side of the toe. The Boyd vein is situated, are situated on the inner side of the proximal leg, and Coquette veins are located on the medial side of the distal lower leg. This is perforating veins, locators. The veins of the deep system accompany of the arteries. Therefore, as with the arm, the arteries and vein have the same name. On the lower leg and foot, typically two veins accompany the corresponding artery. The vena poplitea, as well as vein of toe, generally only occur as single veins. Deep vein, vena femoralis, vena poplitea, this is vena vens fibularis, vens tibialis anterioris. Vena poplitea is one single veins. What you see, vena poplitea, number 3, vena poplitea. Vena femoralis, what you see, vena iliaca externa, passes under ligamentum inguinalis, and vena femoralis is single. It originates laterally of the femoral artery, but then passes gradually to the posterior surface of the artery, and as it rises higher, it passes onto the medial surface. Vena femoralis drain into vena iliaca externa. Vena femoralis. From the position of the veins, runs under the inguinal ligament into the lacuna vasorum. Note the abbreviation MVAN can help the sequence of vessels and nerves to be remembered. This is medial. This is vein. Vena femoralis in lacuna vasorum. Next, arteria femoralis in lacuna vasorum, and nerves. Rami femoralis on the nervus genitofemoralis, genitofemoralis, nerve femoralis, and nerve cutaneus femoris lateralis. These nerves are located in lacuna vasorum. This is lacuna muscularis. Vein, artery, and nerves. Vein, artery, and nerves medially. This medially. Vein femoralis, artery femoralis, and nerves genitofemoralis and ramifemoralis. What do you see? Vasa vasorum. This is artery femoralis. This is vein, vena femoralis, artery femoralis. Lacuna vasorum. The largest of them subcutaneous vein, vena subcutaneous, of the lower extremity are two trunks, vena saphena magna, and vena saphena parva, vena saphena magna, and vena saphena parva. The long saphenous vein, vena saphena magna, originate on the dorsal surface of the foot from rete venosum dorsalis pedis and arcus venosus dorsalis pedis. It passes upward along the medial side of the crus and femur. In the upper 1/3 of the femur, it bends onto the anterior medial surface and lying on the broad fascia, runs toward the hiatus saphenous. At this point, it drains into femoral vein, passing over the lower horn of the crescent-shaped edge. And you see vena saphena magna drain into vena femoralis. Vena saphena magna. This is arcus venosus dorsalis of foot. Vena saphena magna. This is saphenous opening with femoral vein. Vena saphena magna. At the hiatus saphenous, the vena saphena magna, or the vein of the front hip region, include what are known as venosta. Include vena epigastrica superficialis, vena circumflexa ileum superficialis, and vena saphena accessoria, and vena pudenda, vena pudenda externa. Vena pudenda externa. What you see? Vena pudenda externa. This vein forms venous star. What you see? Venous star. This is venous star. Saphena magna, accessori, circumflexa, profunda endasa. Should vena saphena parva, vena saphena parva originates on the lateral side of the dorsal surface of the foot, passes below and behind the lateral malleolus, and then rise along the posterior surface of the crus. At first it runs the lateral edge of Achilles tendon, and then proceed upward along the middle, the posterior segment of the crus corresponding to the groove between the head and head of musculus gastrocnemius. When it reaches the lower angle of the popliteal fossa, vena saphena parva drains into popliteal vein. Vena saphena parva is joined by branches to vena saphena magna. Vena saphena magna. You see vena saphena parva. This is popliteal vena, this is vena saphena magna. This is branches of vena saphena parva, which anastomosis with vena saphena magna. What you see vena saphena magna? This is dorsal venous arch of foot. This metatarsus vein. This is drain into vena saphena parva. Vena saphena parva. Saphena parva, saphena magna. Vena saphena magna, vena saphena parva. Vena saphena parva and vena saphena magna. Malleolus lateralis, malleolus medialis. This is malleolus medialis. Next system, the system of portal vein. The portal vein, vena porta, collects blood from all unpacked organs of the abdominal cavity, with the exception of the liver. Blood carrying nutrients absorbed in gastrointestinal tract is carried by the portal vein to the liver, where the nutrients and neutralized and glycogen is deposited. Blood from the pancreas, which supplies insulin for the regulation of sugar metabolism, and from the spleen, which wield the products of disintegration of blood elements used by liver to secrete bile, is also carried by the portal vein. The structural tie between the portal vein and gastrointestinal tract and its large glands, liver and pancreas, are both functional and genetic. The portal vein is a thick venous trunk located in ligamentum hepatoduodenale with the hepatic artery and ductus holidocus. The portal vein forms behind and the head of the pancreas out of splenic vein, and the two mesenteric vein superior and inferior, vena splenica, vena mesenterica inferior, and vena mesenterica superior drains into vena portal. The portal vein receives vena gastrica sinistra, and dextra. Vena dextra, vena gastrica sinistra, vena gastrica dextra, and vena prepylorica, and divides in the portal hepatis into the two branches which pass into the parenchyma and of the liver, where they spread into a multitude of small branches which entwine the hepatic lobe, numerous capillaries penetrate the lobulus and eventually joined in vena centralis, which major is in the hepatic vein, drain into the inferior vena cava. So you see vena hepatica dextra, vena hepatica interna, vena hepatica intermedia, and vena hepatica sinistra drain into vena cava inferior. This is, you see, vena portal hepatis, divided to vein. This is right and left. Vena splenica. What do you see? Vena splenica. Branches of vena splenica drain into vena portal. Vena splenica collect blood from spleen, from part stomach and pancreas. Branches of vena splenica, vena gastrica brevis, vena gastroomentales sinistra, vena gastrica posterior, vens pancreatica, vens pancreatica, vens pancreatica, vens pancreatica. From the tail and body of the pancreas. What you see, vena splenica, vena splenica. Next, vena mesenterica superior. Vena mesenterica superior drain into vena porta. You see branches, the vena mesenterica superior. Vena mesenterica superior collects blood from parts of stomach, pancreas, from the small intestine, the colon, ascendens, colon transversus. Next vein, vena gastroomentalis dextra, pancreata duodenalis, vena pancreatica from the head and body pancreas, vena jejunales, and ilealis, and vena ileocolica, vena colica dextra, vena ileocolica dextra, and vena ileocolica media. Vena ileocolica media. Dextra ileocolica media. Вот vena colica media. That's you see mesenterica. And you see vena mesenterica superior. This portal vein, vena lienalis, vena colica dextra, vena ileocolica jejunale, vena jejunale ileum, and vena ilienalis ileum. This is vena mesenterica colica, vena mesenterica superioris. Next, vena mesenterica inferior. Drain into vena porta, hepatis. Collect blood from the colon descendens and upper rectum. Branches of the vena mesenterica inferior, vena colica sinistra. Vena colica sinistra, vens sigmoidea, and vena rectalis superior. Vena rectalis superior. Vena rectalis superior, the vein is connected to vena rectal media and vena rectal inferior, which belong to the catchment area of the vena cava inferior. Vena mesenterica inferior, vena mesenterica superior, vena splenica or vena lienalis. This is vena porta hepatis. In addition, there are also vein which drains directly in the portal vein after the main venous branches are merged. Vena cystica. Вот vena cystica, vena para umbilicalis, vena gastrica dextra and sinistra, vena gastrica sinistra and vena gastrica dextra, and pancreatica duodenalis, superior posterior, dorsal from the pancreatic head. This is vena cystica, para umbilicalis, vena gastrica dextra and sinistra, and pancreatica duodenalis. Pancreatic duodenalis, superior and inferior. Next question, portocaval and cava-caval anastomosis. Connection of the porta, vena porta hepatis to draining area of the cava superior and cava inferior are referred to as portocaval anastomosis. The vascular connection are clinically important and extremely relevant for examinations. If we imagine the abdominal cavity in a shape of cube, these anastomoses are located on the all side of the cube. On the top, in the pars abdominal of the esophagus, between root of the vena gastrica sinistra, which empties into the portal vein, and vena esophagus, which drain in the azygos and hemiazygos, and further into vena cava inferior. This anastomosis located on the top. This is anastomosis. What you see, this is anastomosis. Vena gastrica sinistra. This is vena esophagus, vena hemiazygos, and vena azygos drain into vena cava superior. It is anastomosis between vena porta hepatis and vena cava inferior, anastomosis. Next, on the bottom, in the lower part of the rectum, between vena rectalis superior vena rectalis superior, which drain through the vena mesenterica inferior into the portal vein, and vena rectalis media, following interna and inferior, following into pudenda interna, or this is interna, which together drain into vena iliaca interna, vena iliaca interna, vena iliaca interna, and further into the vena iliaca communis from the system of the vena cava inferior. Vena cava inferior. This is connect vena porta hepatis and vena cava inferior. Anastomosis. Anastomosis between vena porta and hepatis and vena cava inferior. Vena cava inferior. What you see, this is vena vena rectalis superior, vena mesenterica inferior, porta vein, vena rectalis superior, vena rectalis media, vena rectalis media and inferior, and vena iliaca interna, vena communis, and vena cava inferior. Anastomosis between vena porta hepatis and vena cava inferior. Anastomosis. Anastomosis. In front, in region of the navel, were the branches of vena para umbilicalis. Vena para umbilicalis. Umbilicalis. Open into porta vein, vena porta. Passing through the thickness of ligamentum teres hepatis to the portal vein. Vena epigastrica superior, vena epigastrica superior, vena epigastrica superior, from the system of the vena cava superior, vena thoracica interna, and vena brachiocephalica, and vena epigastrica inferior, from the system of the vena cava inferior. Anastomosis. Vena epigastrica connect with vena epigastrica inferior superior, and paraumbilicale drains in porta vein. This is form anastomosis, vena cava inferior, vena cava superior, and porta vein. Cava, porta, caval anastomosis. Do you see, please? This is vena cava, cava, porta, cava. This vena cava superior, vena cava inferior, and porta vein. vena epigastrica superior, vena epigastrica inferior. This is para umbilicalis, vena para umbilicalis. Drain into vena porta hepatis. This is together anastomosis between vena cava superior, vena cava inferior, and vena cava, vena porta hepatis. This is anastomosis. Portacaval and cavacaval anastomosis. Those provide a bypass to drained of blood when obstacles appear in liver. In such cases, the veins around navel dilate and acquire a typical appearance known as Medusa head. Medusa head. In back, in the lumbar region, between the root of the vein of the mesoperitoneal segment of the large intestine from the system of the portal vein, and the parietal vena lumbalis from the system of the vena cava inferior. All these anastomosis form what is known as retreat system between system portal vein and vena cava inferior. Anastomosis. There is addition cava-caval anastomosis. Cava-caval anastomosis on the posterior abdominal wall among the roots of vena lumbale. From the system of the vena cava inferior. These roots are connected with the part vena lumbalis ascendens, which is the origin of vena azygos to right, and hemiazygos to the left from the system of the vena cava superior. The cava-caval anastomosis between vena lumbalis and the intervertebral vein, which in neck region serve as root of the vena cava inferior. This is vena lumbalis, vena vena lumbalis ascendens, then passes in azygos drain into vena cava. It is cava-cavalny anastomosis. This is cava-cavalny anastomosis. You see the cava-caval anastomosis, the table. In table write about information about cava-caval anastomosis. This, for example, the anterior abdominal wall localization of the anastomosis, vein which form anastomosis, vena epigastrica superior and vena epigastrica inferior. The side wall of the thoracic and abdominal cavity, it is vena thoracoepigastrica, vena axillaris, vena epigastrica superficialis et inferioris. Next, cava-caval anastomosis, the posterior wall of thoracic and abdominal cavity between vena azygos hemiazygos and vena lumbalis ascendens. Next anastomosis, the venous plexus of vertebral column, anastomosis between vena intercostalis posterior and vena lumbalis. Next table, the portocaval anastomosis. This is mistake, this is veins. The area, the abdominal esophagus and cardiac part of stomach. Anastomosis between vena gastrica sinistra and vein esophagealis. This is vein azygos et hemiazygos. On the rectal wall, localization of area of localization of the anastomosis. Vena rectalis superior, this is vena mesenterica inferior, and rectalis media et inferior iliaca interna. This is anastomosis between portal vein, this is portal vena portalis, vena porta hepatica, this is vena cava inferior. Next, localization of anastomosis, the anterior abdominal wall. Anastomosis between vena para umbilicalis and veins epigastrica superior and epigastrica inferior. And rear wall, the mesenterica superior lienalis and vena realis. Vena realis. This table you will learn at home. This information important for you. My lecture is finished. Goodbye, student. Thank you for attention. Goodbye.